What's up, Taiwan? I'm Eric Gao with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. U.S. officials have contacted Taiwan over remarks made by Vice President Lai Ching-te about entering the White House. That's according to the Financial Times. During a speech last week, Lai said when Taiwan's president can enter the White House, a political goal will have been achieved. Lai is also the current frontrunner to become president in January's election. According to the FT, several unnamed officials confirmed that the U.S. contacted Taiwan's government for clarification. Washington maintains a delicate balance when managing ties between Taipei and Beijing, which considers Taiwan part of China. This includes not allowing top Taiwanese officials into Washington. For more on Lai's comments and Taiwan's relations with the U.S., our reporter Stash Butler spoke to Lev Nachman, an assistant professor of political science at the National Zhengzi University.
When Taiwan's president can enter the White House, the political goal we're pursuing will have been achieved. Why is that a contentious thing to say?
I think the biggest challenge for Lai and why those comments were perhaps read with such high brows in the United States is because of Lai's past of having stated much more directly that he is pro-independence leaning. It's frustrating from the Lai camp, I'm sure, because they've spent the last 6 months to a year really trying their best to convince not just Washington, D.C., but most of the world that Lai is in fact a pro-status quo presidential candidate and that he is going to be essentially a Tsai Ing-wen 2.0 if elected president. And even though he's starting to convince a lot of people in D.C., comments like this, even if this was completely not his intention, will be colored through his past comments.
I mean, you mentioned these past comments. I should clarify that, you know, this famous quote that he had in 2017, I believe it was, he says he described himself as a political worker who supports Taiwanese independence. How has that colored the view of him since, at home and abroad?
So for a lot of Deep Green supporters, they've always favored Lai, especially when we think back to, say, the 2019 primary in the DPP, where Lai Ching-te challenged Tsai for the presidency. A lot of Deep Green voters were more supportive of Lai than Tsai because they saw him as more pro-independence than Tsai. Over the last few years, he has over and overstated that he supports the status quo and goes by the very standard DPP talking line of Taiwan is already independent as the ROC and that no further need for formalized independence is necessary.
But I think it's worth pointing out the two sides of this one China policy. Could you kind of explain that for us?
Yeah, so, we think about what the United States' goal is in trying to maintain stability in the Cross Strait, and a lot of it has been focused on preventing China from unilaterally taking action to change the status quo in the Taiwan Strait. But the other side of that policy from the United States' perspective is to also stop Taiwan from unilaterally declaring independence, which is something that many in D.C. fear would happen under a Lai presidency. Now, of course, it's worth noting that even if Lai is elected president, a sitting president in Taiwan cannot unilaterally declare independence. Taiwan is a democracy. There are rules and regulations to these sorts of things. I think there's a bit of a boogeyman in D.C. of this idea that if Lai becomes president, then the next day there will be total chaos and you'll have pro-independence people running Taiwan. And that's just not true.
That was Lev Nachman of National Zhengzi University speaking to Stash Butler. Meanwhile, the three main presidential candidates have been out meeting, greeting, and campaigning this week. The past few days also saw a new poll released showing the current levels of support for each of them. Harrell Hughes has the details.
Taiwan's presidential election is less than 6 months away, and the candidates are ramping up their public appearances. On Wednesday, Taiwan's vice president and Democratic Progressive Party candidate Lai Ching-te met Abe Akio at the presidential office. She is the wife of Japan's late Prime Minister, Abe Shinzo, who was assassinated in October last year.
去参加告别式看到的照片，哇，是那么帅气，充满了笑容，也没有感觉到他已经不在了。
Lai emphasized his hope for stronger relations with Japan in the spirit of the country's late prime minister. A poll showing the levels of support for each presidential candidate was also released this week. It puts Lai in the lead with 38%. He's followed by Taiwan People's Party candidate Ko Wen-je, who was just over 28%, and Kuomintang candidate Ho Yo-i coming in third at around 21%. But now there's been speculation of an alliance between the TPP and KMT, Taiwan's two main opposition parties. The TPP's Ke said the alliance could be made in the coming months. KMT candidate Ho Yo-i responded,
柯文哲的声音我听到了，下架，无能 没有做又贪腐的民进党政府，这才是我们最重要的目标。
Unifying non-DPP votes has been a challenge for the KMT. And with Ho's low polling numbers, many in his party have begun to question his potential candidacy. The KMT is also considering billionaire and Foxconn founder Terry Gou for the ticket. The KMT will hold its National Congress on July 23rd and will formally nominate a candidate then. Ho Yo-i is still the favorite. And with only half a year to the election, the question of whether the DPP can maintain their lead against an opposition alliance may soon be answered. Klein Wang and Harrell Hughes for TaiwanPlus.
Thailand's next prime minister will not come from the progressive Move Forward party, despite them winning the popular vote in May. That's after the country's parliament blocked its leader, Pita from becoming prime minister. Pita was also suspended as a lawmaker by the Constitutional Court over an alleged breach of electoral rules. To discuss the situation in Thailand, Joyce Zun spoke with Tirak Siripan from Indo-Pacific advisory firm Coverup Asia.
Obviously, many things happened at Parliament in Thailand on Wednesday, but in essence, the next Prime Minister won't be from the party that won the general elections where the people voted, and that was for Pita Limjaroenrat's Move Forward party. How often does that happen in Thailand?
Well, if we look back in Thai political history, it is not unexpected. The establishment, if you may, have always held the power to shape the outcome. Move Forward Party have broke so many of the political trends and traditions of how political party in Thailand wins elections. We expected that Move Forward Party would win a lot of popular votes because they have the support of younger generations as well as more of the urban supporters. But we didn't anticipate that they will win votes, particularly out in the suburbs. But because they did, I think that scared a lot of people. And that is this the beginning of the new political trend in Thailand?
Well, with Parliament voting to end Pita's bid for Prime Minister, it seems that it's not yet time for change in Thailand. What are you expecting in terms of public reaction?
I think it created a lot of anger towards his supporters. We would expect a lot of protests on the streets as well as online. I don't think we would anticipate a political movement on street to the extent of 2010, where red shirts closing down Bangkok. Younger generations have a very different way of expressing their point of view. And another aspect is that Thai's security force have grown experience in protest control.
How does Thailand's prolonged period without a leader impact the country, say in economics or in its relationship with other countries in the region?
I think the Thai community, business, government have to a certain extent grown accustomed to this political turmoil. Thailand has a strong private sector that drives the economy. Tourism is backed in business. On ground, day-to-day is business per usual. But the longer it takes to the new government formations, the more eyes are on Thailand. You see the EU and other countries are really watching this really closely. I think US are particularly watching this very closely because you expect them to host the APEC at the end of the year. I think they're very keen to see who will be Thailand representative on that, and whether it is from the democratically elected election or not.
That was Joyce Sun speaking with Tirasak Siripan, Managing Director of Indo-Pacific advisory firm Coverup Asia. A government worker in Hualien County has added her voice to Taiwan's growing Me Too movement. She says she was harassed by a colleague, but when she raised the issue with her superiors, they covered it up.
申诉后，消息助理就到处放话，说我去告啊！公务员于工作时遭受助理长期性骚扰，依法提出申诉，保护自身权益时，主管却在工作上刁难，利用权势打压。
Ms. Wu says the harassment lasted over 2 years. She says she filed her complaint in March, but it wasn't acted on until July. The Hualien County government says it took that long to gather evidence and denies any cover-up. It says her alleged harasser has been moved to a different position and ordered to take 3 hours of gender equality classes. Ms. Wu says that's not enough. Many LGBTQ people in Taiwan are uncomfortable being open about their sexuality or gender in the workplace. That's according to a survey done by 2 local NGOs. It says only 46% of people come out to their colleagues and fewer than 30% to their bosses. The survey has been conducted since 2016. Since then, Taiwan has legalized same-sex marriage and adoption, and fewer workers hide their preferences. But the NGOs say companies need to do more. They plan to introduce a certification for companies that encourage more inclusive workplaces.
也有机会可以跟大家来分享说你的最佳实践案例，然后也会获得公开的表扬。那在这个填表跟计分之后呢，也会取得一个我们的改善的建议指南。
A new survey suggests that 90% of people here in Taiwan are deeply concerned by climate change. A poll conducted by a national Taiwan university found that 80% of respondents support a move to renewable energy, even if that means a hike in electricity prices. The results come in the wake of extreme weather events around the world, including record temperatures in many countries and deadly floods in South Korea. Taiwan recently passed its Climate Change Response Act. That law aims to reduce the country's greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by 2050. The Asian water buffalo has been an iconic part of Taiwan's farmlands for as long as many people can remember. But what happens when these animals start popping up in places they don't belong? Bryn Thomas has the story.
Holy cow. Believe it or not, this kind of scene is becoming more and more common in some parts of New Taipei City. Taiwan's iconic water buffalo have been chasing cyclists, digging holes in parklands, and generally causing a ruckus. And when they bump into people, they sometimes have a fight or flight response. Introduced to Taiwan in the 1600s, the animals were domesticated and used for farm work for centuries. Now, most found in Taiwan's parks are descended from abandoned animals released into the wild. They're known as ownerless buffalo. And while docile, they can become dangerous when threatened or in heat. It's gotten so bad that residents in the area are looking to Taiwan's Park Service for solutions. But that's far from a practical solution, nor is it likely to put park goers at ease. Plans to fence off the area have also been put forward, but these are expensive and fail to address the environmental damage the water buffaloes are causing.
那新北大汉溪那边可能因为环境的关系，它的范围相当广阔。那适不适合说用围栏把它区隔？那也要考量将来洪泛相关的问题，会不会影响到它水牛的这个生命的问题。
And the buffalo aren't just causing problems for people. Taiwan's dragonfly population has also been devastated. Ownerless buffalo trample their habitat and snooze in their breeding ponds.
因为消暑或者是说清除寄生虫的关系，它需要到这些水域里面去滚泥巴浴，那都可能会导致它们的重叠。水牛如果你一直不管它，又没有天敌的情况下，它的数量一定会变多。但它变多的时候，它就很有可能会去使用到这样的水域环境。
As the buffalo population increases, so does the public pressure to control it. Plans to relocate the animals or to sterilize them are being put forward.
河滨公园的牛只上它大概就是会倾向是在凌晨或者是在夜晚的时候出没。目前大概我们的方向会倾向就是捕捉、移置、安置跟节育。
Authorities in New Taipei City have yet to settle on a solution. In the meantime, they are warning people to avoid approaching the animals and to be careful at night. James Lin and Bryn Thomas for TaiwanPlus.
Thanks for watching What's Up Taiwan. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, enjoy these penguin chicks going for their very first swim at London Zoo. I'm Eric Gao. Take care and see you next time.